Hi guys, welcome back to Needle and Threads Facebook page. I'm Pippa Phillips. In this video we're going to do my face mask pattern, but if you don't have a sewing machine we're going to look at a hand sewing technique for this mask. Just to recap on the last video, I talked about printing down the pattern, looking at the sizes, just guess which size is yours, cut it out, put some tape at the bottom and the top and try it on your face for a good fit. If it's a bit big, cut the next size down, etc. So once you have the pattern that you want, then you lay it onto your fabric, 2 layers of fabric. You only need a couple of pins just to secure it in place. We're going to get our scissors and we're going to cut out that pattern with our scissors. Now, if you know anything about patterns, there's a lot of talk about seam allowance. Seam allowance has already been taken into consideration with this pattern, so we don't have to worry about seam allowance. You can cut right up to the pattern edge. Once you've cut out your pieces, which is what I've done earlier, we need to remove our pattern. Now this is quite a simple pattern. So as a guide, if you're a beginner, the bottom bit is where it curves around, in case you get confused, and the top bit we get pointy bits. So when we say we put right sides together, it means the fabric that's facing, that would be on the front of your mask, is folded in on the inside. So we've got the wrong sides showing here. So we're going to fold it down, and these are called darts, so we're going to stitch up these 2 little darts first, and the same with our fabric, lining fabric. We're going to do a little hand stitch across there and hand stitch across there. So I've already started. I've done this one, and we're going to work on this one. So I've done this dart, which is the top dart, the pointy bit, and we're going to do the bottom one. Looking at thread, a good quality thread. Don't go for cheap threads because they twist and they snap easily. Don't be tempted to have more than 18 inches in length. A huge, great long piece of thread is just going to tangle and get into knots and frustrate you. So for doing hand stitching, to emulate our sewing machine, we need to be doing something called a back stitch. So we're going to put a knot onto our sewing thread, which I've got at the end there. And I'm just going to bring my magnifier forward so that we get a really good close look at that. So I'm putting my needle in, and I'm just taking a very small stitch. So from here to here, just get my scissors, from here to here we've got about a 1 centimetre seam, very small seam. In sewing, dressmaking, you usually have a much bigger seam. So we pull our needle through until we get to our knot, and then back stitch then is actually going in where the knot is and then coming out again a little bit further forward. So if we have a look there, we've got 1 stitch there, and we've got another stitch just coming forward from that, and then our next stitch we go back where our last stitch was and we come up again. Oops. Just in front. Okay, so there is our first couple of stitches. Again, you just follow along. That's why it's called back stitch. You go back to the end of that stitch and then you move forward in front of the stitch that you've just done. Okay, and then we go in and we come out. Now I've made this mask. It took me about 45 minutes to make. So if you're a bit slower, an hour. So you could do that while you're watching your favourite soap and protect the family at the same time. So you can see now how we get back stitch. So we've got our stitches there. If I turn it round, it's not quite so neat on the back, but quite neat on the front. So we're just going to finish that off now. So casting off, we're just going to finish our last stitch, come back where we started. So we make some little stitches, teeny little stitches. We do 1 stitch, we do 2 stitches, 3 stitches, and on your 4th stitch you make a loop, you put your needles through the loop and you pull, which creates a knot, and then we do 1 more. These masks need to be nice and secure. Oops. Okay, now we use that loop and we go through again to secure, and we trim off our end. So there is our back stitch, and I've done that on this side, this side, this side. I just move my magnifier away. Okay, so once we've got there, we open up our mask. So we've got the right side, we open up our lining fabric. You can do it both the same type of fabric, you don't have to have 2 different colours. So we've got these pointy ends, the pointy ends go together. We take a pin, we pop it in to the mask and pin just there. And then this side, you can see the difference here, so don't get them upside down. This is definitely rounded. This has definitely got a point on it. So don't stitch them back to front. Okay, when you're happy that they are joined together, then we can go back to our back stitch, and we're going to back stitch all the way round the edge until we get to the end. We're leaving the ending open both sides, and then we're going to turn that inside out. Once we're done, I'm using green cotton so that you can see quite clearly on the camera. Obviously you'll be using a yellowy colour to blend in with your fabric. Right, once you've got it the right way, go to your ironing board. You've got a pair of scissors. Don't poke too hard, we don't want to poke a hole in it. As you're pressing, push the edge of your scissors down so that you get a really nice, I'm just going to finger press that, so that you get a really nice joint there, that you don't get this sort of thing happening. You get it nice and neat as you're pressing. When we get to the openings, turn your openings in, ready for your elastic to pop inside. Okay, I've got a little mini one here. This is little children's one that I finished earlier. So we've tucked in those edges, And then we need our closure. I'm using this Jersey Stretch knitting yarn, but you can use elastic. So how big a loop do we want? Well, it just depends on how big your ears are. So put your mask up to your face and wrap your elastic around your ears and cut to the appropriate size. So pop it in there, and we can put a couple of pins in there. Just pop it in the end. So if you're not sure whether you've not quite got it right, put some little pins in there and the other side, and just try it on before you sew. If it's a bit big, you can trim it. Okay, nothing worse than stitching it up and then thinking, I wish I'd tried it on first. Okay, my sewing thread seems to have left me. So when we're going to do these closures, we can do a back stitch across here, but this is going to come under a lot of pressure. So before we close it, we really want to make sure that those ends are nice and tight. So I'm using my thread double now. Again, not too long a bit. And as we stitch, let's bring that into play again. We're going to do a few stitches here to really hold that in. So just going in and out. Now with your sewing machine, you do a little reverse stitch, which would really keep those bits in. But we don't want these bits coming out while you're wearing them. So I'm just stitching well on the spot. Okay, once we've got that, I've broken my thread there. Once we've got it in and you've had a little tug on it, okay, that's fine. We could then go on to close it with a back stitch. And that is the way you can do it by hand. Give it all a press when it's finished, and hey presto, you've got yourself a safety mask. Thanks for watching. See you again.